this pair of boots costs about 180 bucks. This pair costs about 600. Now, I never thought I would have a pair of $600 boots on my feet, but here we are. Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. Back with another video a day till this channel hits 100K. This is video 59 now. Typically, we're here talking about trucks, side-by-sides, motorcycles, power sports. But I've had a bit of a boot obsession recently, and it all started several years ago where a boot brand that was heavily promoting on social media reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to take a look at a pair of our boots? Now, I had not been wearing cowboy boots at that point. I actually was wearing a tactical boot most of the time, but I said, sure, I'll take a look at them. Well, I had actually ordered this pair of Ariats to compare those two, and I put this name brand on, and I wasn't really all that impressed. I didn't think I was a cowboy boot kind of person. Oh man, that is comfortable. The boot that I'll be wearing is by far the Ariats. The boots look too much like an UGG to me. Matter of fact, I never even made the video. I donated the boots to Salvation Army. But putting on the Ariats changed my opinion of boots, and now we're off to the races. And that's where Chisos came in. But this wasn't a situation where just a company's marketing people had reached out to me because I had this like big boot following. It wasn't like that at all. As a matter of fact, the CEO, Will, of Chisos had reached out to me and said that one of my tonneau cover videos had led him to buy the cover for his truck. And he said, would you be interested in doing a review on these Chisos number 2 boots? I was like, sure, why not? Now, that was well over a year ago, and I guess better late than never. It just kind of fell off the radar, but these boots did not. I get a lot of outreach on like Instagram, emails, and I ignore so many of them because I just think most of the time it's garbage. And with Chisos, I didn't recognize the name, so I was like, I don't know who these people are, whatever. Ignored them for a few days, but then I looked them up and I saw a video on Rose Anvil's channel.
It might be the highest quality cowboy boots you can buy, even comparing it against the juggernaut of Lucchese's,
where they basically cut these boots apart and get into like the nitty-gritty hardcore review of what these things are. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are going to consider a pair of boots like this or like any pair, go check out Rose Anvil. If you want to go down a rabbit hole of boot construction, Rose Anvil is the place to go for that. So I actually ended up reaching back out to Will after I saw that these were actually not only a reputable boot, but also a very, very well-respected name brand. And a huge reason why I decided to take a look at these things was really just the story of Chisos. They are not some giant boot company that's owned by some investors and there's just kind of a name behind it. Ariat is kind of what I would call just like a big commercial brand. Chisos is just the kind of company where their whole mantra is just doing it right. High quality, great craftsmanship, built around a purpose. So now here we are, a year and a month or two later, a couple months later, I have worn the snot out of these boots. And I have got to tell you, as somebody who owns a bunch of Ariats, these leaps and bounds better than the Ariats. Proof is in the sole. I have worn them around town. I've worn them to business meetings, and I have run through airports to catch connecting flights with these things. I have put them through their paces. Now, are they the best running shoe? No, but I will tell you that after sprinting through several airports with these things, they were comfortable. I had no problems with them. And I think going through and watching the Rose Anvil series on cutting these things apart and seeing what their construction is really like. We'll say you can smell the leather out of this box. This reminds me of walking past, I don't know, like a leather store in the mall, where you walk in and the entire store is nothing but leather and that very strong smell. I get that exact smell out of one pair of boots. Individually wrapped. Wow, man, these are absolutely beautiful boots. Holding a handcrafted boot compared to an Ariat, just even holding the thing in your hands, it's significantly better. What does a $600 boot feel like on your foot? This is hard to explain. Like a glove, I guess you'd say. I never thought that I'd be saying that a $500 boot would be worth it. I'll leave that the professional boot people for those kinds of conversations, but the whole story here, and I've struggled with this, saying like, these are $600 boots. I just recently started buying like $100, $180 pair of boots. I started with these Ariats, which are a waterproof. They're kind of like more of like a winter boot, but I'm also here in Phoenix. It's super hot. So then I started getting into, well, these ones here, which actually have some ventilated sides, which help quite a bit. But when I bought these boots, they were actually too small, and I kind of had held on to them too long for the return policy. So I ended up having to buy basically a second pair of ventilated boots for summertime wearing here. These are kind of relegated to like yard work and maybe some like short motorcycle trips. These boots are basically the ones that I thrash. Now these ones I just bought recently as kind of like a dressier boot, but also something that I'm not super worried about like scuffing up long term. But these Chisos boots, that's where I think the conversation with me and not owning $600 boots is I tend to ruin jeans, shorts, shirts, everything, because I get into things and I forget that I'm wearing something nice. These boots, I scuffed them up on the concrete on accident, crawling around underneath my truck like an idiot, which I should not have been doing with those nice boots. So I do need to get them repaired. But here's what I'm going to tell you guys. I spent a bunch of time going in and out of customers' offices. This was in construction. A lot of my travel for work was spent going into the Midwest. I spent a lot of time in Wichita. I spent a lot of time in St. Louis. Spent a lot of time in Texas. I live here in Phoenix. Selling to construction people as a construction person, I always liked to dress the part. So I don't go in there suit and tie, because that's not, first of all, it's not who I am. I'm not a suit and tie kind of guy. I am a jeans and a polo shirt sort of guy. And these fit perfect with that whole ensemble. I found I would go to these meetings and people would be like, hey man, nice boots. Hey, those are really nice boots. Hey, I am not a fashion simple by no means, never have been, never will be, but I got so many compliments on these boots. They were like, where'd you get those? What are those? And it was amazing to me. I don't look at other people's feet like that, but other people apparently do. So the moral of the story here is that I don't know if I would have ever, when I found this brand, had bought a pair of $600 boots. But now that I've worn a pair of $600 boots and I've worn a pair of $180 boots, there is absolutely a value in a fine crafted boot versus a mass-produced, like consumer grade type boot. And I would no doubt recommend Chisos if you can stomach to spend that kind of money on boots. I don't know if that's really my market or not, but if Chisos were to reach out to me and say, we want you to be our boot guy forever, the product is good enough that I would put my stamp of approval on it and rep Chisos from now until the end of time. Now, I love my Ariats because, like these ones, I can just thrash them and throw them away. And that's kind of how I've treated boots my entire life. I've never been a dress shoe guy or anything. So I tend to have this like thrash them until they're trash and then toss them sort of mentality. But getting into a dressier cowboy boot, I've got to say, I love the Chisos boots. These were sponsored. Yes, they were sent to me. No, I didn't spend that money myself. Would I? Yes. After experiencing them, I absolutely, no doubt, would buy another pair of these, and I probably will. So, I don't know. Just a different take here. Decided to do a cowboy boot video, which is, again, not really in my wheelhouse, but seeing how Will speaks not only about his product, but himself and his people and just the way that he focuses on all of the things that are important. It's kind of like talking the talk and walking the walk is sort of how I view Chisos. So I still will wear my Ariat boots, but I will say that Chisos feels like a much, much nicer brand. And take a look at the company. They're honestly, it's a fascinating story. Just even the way that they came up with the name of Chisos, naming it after a mountain range that I had never heard of prior to Chisos existing. There's just a lot behind it. And I like the story, I like the people, I like the product. So I thought, you know what? I'll throw them a nice little review video here on YouTube, because even the way that they found me, again, it's the CEO watched my YouTube videos, which helped him in a purchasing decision, which is super rad. I just love how this whole YouTube community thing works. It's really cool. And this was a prime example of something super rad coming out of just me sitting here talking in my garage to a camera, which is super weird. So with that said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. I will link Chisos in the description down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys next time.